ஸோ அனைவருக்கும் மாலை வணக்கம். நான் தமிழில் பேச முயற்சி பண்ணலை, ஆனால் இங்கே இங்கிலீஷில் தான் பேசணும்னு கட்டாயம். ஸோ ஐ ஸ்விட்ச் ஓவர் டு இங்கிலீஷ். இந்த தேசத்துக்கு மோசம் வந்தால் மீண்டும் மீண்டும் மக்கள் புயல் வீசும். ஐ திங்க் தட்ஸ் அ brilliant song that Comrade Toyer just sang. So one big round of applause again to her. Basically, which means whenever this, there is, the people of this nation are betrayed, then there will be a people's uprising. Puyal is like a storm, a people's uprising. So I think that's a brilliant, in a way, summation of this whole powerful conclave. Thanks to all the organizers, thanks to Comrade Franco in particular for, I think, putting together this extremely significant constellation of people from different walks of life and to discuss, deliberate and also think of ways forward in today's extremely challenging context. I think all the speakers from the morning have spoken about both what are the immediate challenges, what are the long-term challenges, and also what we need to do in the immediate context and in the long-term context. The special intensive revision that we've all been discussing about, of course it is a special intensive reduction is also something that many people referred. It's also a special intensive repression that the state wants to unleash on the people of this country. But we are, as we the people, set to challenge, set to reject and set to defeat this design, not just in Bihar but across the country. That is a resolve we take from today's Chennai conference. And I think the spirit of today's conference is that there has to be the biggest non-cooperation with the state, with the government of India, and the biggest cooperation amongst the civil society and all the progressive sections. So that biggest non-cooperation with the state and the biggest cooperation with the people and the citizenry and the civil society, I think that is the strength. And what Comrade Noor spoke just before me, I think it's very important for us to also acknowledge that there are actually a million mutinies happening across the country, some of which we know, many of which we might not know, but in different ways, different struggles, different movements, different uprisings, small and large, are happening, many on ground, some maybe even online, which I don't think we should dismiss. They are very significant in today's times, but in many, many ways, there is a lot of resistance. So broadly, when we were having a planning meeting also, we tried to sum up some of the things that should be probably at the heart of this entire conclave. 3 A's. One is analysis, which we did since the morning, and which is very important to understand and have a correct reading of the situation. Second is alarm, which many of our speakers alarmed us about, including Parakala Prabhakar Garu. And action, the most important. Yes, we should analyze the situation. Yes, we should be alarmed, but we should not be silent after being alarmed. We should all plunge into action, direct action and diverse action. That is the spirit that we are taking back from this conference. So therefore, as much as it is a great challenge, it is also a great opportunity, friends, for us as India today and for all of us as citizens. So probably there is the All India mission. Either we could continue through the process, or there needs to be something really, really large, something like a democracy for citizens, for all the citizens of India. Because democracy matters for every single individual. It is not just for some sections of civil society or some constituencies who are fighting or certain parties. It is for all of us. So it is in that spirit that we all need to come together. I think many of our speakers who spoke through the day said that, and it is quite established and actually true, that we can't simply depend on political parties because they are quote-unquote the more active agents within the political electoral sphere. Saving democracy just can't be left to them. It has to be the primary concern of citizens and the civil society. Of course, there are a whole range of movements, civil society, and even independent citizens who have been involved. How do we reach out to them? There have been suggestions and ideas about that as well. But I think one challenge that we also need to look at is today, if we, not just the BJP, but across different states, whichever party is functioning, the larger, there is a rot and a deeper rot in the larger electoral system also, which is what should be people's rights, what should be people's entitlements, are kind of being, people are made subject to certain schemes or certain benefits, and through that there is a certain way of kind of keeping people within their fold. And then the other approach is what we are seeing in a majoritarian India today, a fear and otherization of the other, the so-called fear of the other. So I think we really need to actually puncture through these things. I mean, whichever party is in power in whichever state, it is their responsibility to ensure entitlements, whether it is healthcare, education, livelihoods, etc. these are not some favors that any political party grants on citizens. And also equally important is this struggle against the otherization that we need to be very upfront against. Then this whole engagement with political parties, I totally agree with what Parakala Prabhakar Garu was saying, that we can't really depend on them. It is for we the citizens. But at the same time, we should not let go of the other non-BJP opposition parties as well. We have to catch hold of them in different ways. They have to be part of this broader effort. Yes, they have a stake, but they are also very opportunistic. That is true. So I think the independent civil society, the independent citizens movement will act as that ethical compass that will hold not just the BJP, RSS to accountable to the constitution, but also the other political parties. I think it is that kind of a very significant role that we all to an extent are already playing, but I think we should do it even more intensely in the days to come. I also was thinking of what Anjali said, and I mean people like her have been constantly raising this alarm about the decay in various institutions, whether it is the Election Commission or the Supreme Court that Usha spoke about. How do we really, and I think there is again a challenge there, that the level of uprising that is needed in terms of, because the decisions, the adverse decisions or the inaction, the betrayal of these institutions actually affects a lot of ordinary citizens. But when it comes to fighting back, it is maybe a smaller subset of organizations or active citizenry who are more involved in taking on the institutions directly. I think as we go forward, it is really important to be able to build this wider consciousness that it is, I mean, this is something there is at stake for all of us, and therefore all of us should be able to challenge these institutions whenever they are going into a whole phase of decay. In terms of how do we really involve, of course, a lot of movements have been engaged in different things, but I think specific constituencies, if one looks at 3 broad constituencies, I would really want to list: young people, about who comrades have already spoken; women, I mean, even as we are talking now, we are doing a session on how SIR in particular impacts women adversely, and women from working class and marginalized backgrounds; and third, the working class in particular. India has a very large 93% section is in the informal sector. So how do we really get the entire informal sector workforce into, of course they will continue to fight for their immediate battles and we can't fault them on this, but how do we creatively plug in these issues that really impact their lives, their decisions, because it is this same government that has done away with the labor laws and has brought in the labor codes. So I think it's also important to creatively weave in, connect many of these struggles to establish the right to citizenship and democracy, and also children. I mean, you just refer to 100 years of RSS. They do this exact thing. They catch them young, right? So I think many times we as civil society or independent organizations, we are some way removed from children. It is important to. And the state in today's times will say that you're trying to brainwash children. No, we are actually trying to cultivate a whole generation of conscious young minds. And that has to begin with children. There is no need to be defensive on that front. We have every right to also organize with children and inculcate constitutional understanding and values. And I think this is something that really we have to do going ahead, because if we look at this also as a long-term process of democratization, nurturing the next generation of young people is extremely necessary. And as we do all of this, of course, there will be a lot of vilification that we're already seeing. There's going to be a lot of targeting, and that's an easy thing. As Noor rightly said, because they are on the defensive, they come in with devious schemes like the SIR. So they will continue to attack and they will continue to engage in repression. And what Prabhakar Garu said in the morning, I think it was good the way he said that we have to make democracy trending. Because when when the state tries to target certain people or organizations and say that it is only these people, otherwise no one else is opposing or no one else is doing, I think we should be able to increase that circle of opposition in a constructive way as well. And it is in that context, again, that civil society has a huge role. I also wanted to say that as much as the electoral space is important, and I think all of us are speaking in that context today about vote chori. Of course, it's not just vote chori, it's also the voice chori that is constantly happening. I think it's also important to ground this as an ideological struggle, whether it is states like Tamil Nadu or Kerala to a certain extent, even Bengal to a certain extent, or even Assam that our friend just spoke about. The specifics of states, the specifics of local struggles is very important. And the resistance today to BJP also has to be from this lens of it wanting to impose this extremely centralized model in every single thing. I mean, India can never be, it is such a diverse landscape, it can never be the centralized imagination that they have. So even in our response to organizing, it is important actually to have this ideological grounding and clarity, and therefore the struggle is not only electoral. Of course, it's very important to fight in this electoral and democratic space, but it is equally important to have a cultural response. It is equally important to understand the political economy behind this whole initiative. I mean, who benefits from an SIR kind of initiative eventually, or who benefits from the weakening of institutions? There is a huge economic dimension to this. So I think it's really important for us to also be looking at what is unfolding in these various lenses as well. Since we are really short on time, I will actually sum up what I wanted to say, and if you may permit, I'll quickly run through the resolution. We had a discussion, and then we drafted a resolution. Taraji, of course, took a lot of initiative in that, and we put together a brief resolution that would probably sum up the spirit of today's conclave. I will read that out, and maybe after each para, people can raise their hand if you are in agreement. Should we do that? Yeah. So the Chennai resolutions, October 25th, 2025. The last 2 years have proven beyond doubt that the conduct of our elections, which have been relatively free and fair until now, has collapsed with deceitful and unconstitutional interventions. As a result, an illegitimate government at the center has come into being. A process that has involved a biased government, a partisan ESI, a doctored voters list, and a manipulated counting process has led to this. The Lok Sabha that came into existence on the very basis of this compromised electoral integrity should be dissolved forthwith to reset the way forward. These acts of fraud have alarmed the nation. They threaten to destabilize the very foundations on which we built our democracy. We, the people, call upon all legitimate stakeholders, the citizenry in general, various civil society organizations and platforms, people's movements, all political parties, especially the opposition parties, to imbibe the spirit of our democratic constitution and fight back to preserve its core values. The need of the hour is for us to stand united and resist the concerted efforts at dismantling our democracy and destroying the federal fabric of our republic, with a firm resolve to defend our constitution. Are we agreed on this? Therefore, we reject three things. One, we reject the current ECI, both for the process by which it is appointed and for its misdeeds. Two, we reject the manipulated voters list prepared through the special intensive revision, the SIR in Bihar, and also resist such attempts to extend it to the rest of the country. Three, we therefore reject the entire SIR process itself. Are we agreed?
Yes.
And then what we demand? We demand that the dissolution of the present ECI and the constitution of a new election commission of India based on an unbiased process. We demand the immediate scrapping of the SIR. We demand a prompt response from the ECI on the concerns raised by the Association for Democratic Reforms, the Vote for Democracy report of July 24, and the questions raised by the leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi. We demand an impartial investigation of the concerns raised by civil society groups and organizations and the opposition. We demand 100% counting of the VVPAT with the VVPAT slip handed over to the voter for them to make their verified choice of voting. We demand no addition, deletion be done without proper intimation to the voter and their family as ordered by the Supreme Court. Voters list should be machine readable and accessible online for anyone to see as it existed before. We demand the decentralization of the Election Commission of India so as to enable the conduct of elections to the state legislatures by newly mandated and constituted state election commissions. We demand total transparency for every citizen for all data at national level so people know when it is being mismanaged. We demand open proof at end of voting day that vote data in every EVM is immutably logged and value of the log is shared on the Election Commission's website for every EVM per booth. And finally, we demand postal ballot for the migrant workers. So are we agreed on these 9 demands or any? Agree. And finally, what actions? This is probably the most important part beyond the resolve. we the people hereby resolve to raise the alarm on SIR and the dismantling of our electoral democracy. We resolve to raise the alarm across all the states with priority to states that are going to the polls in 25-26, although we do have some positive inputs from states that are shared so far, but it is still important to raise the alarm. Second, carry the Chennai resolve to every nook and corner and sensitize every citizen. Third, build a nationwide consciousness and undertake ground actions in all the states. Conclaves such as this Chennai Conclave shall be organized for mass mobilization of the citizenry and to fight back the dictatorial tendencies. 4. Meet all opposition parties and call upon them to fulfill their obligation in restoring a free and fair electoral democracy. And 5. Approach the President of India to strongly urge her to discharge her constitutional obligation of preserving the sanctity of democracy. We the people, as the sovereign stakeholders of our democracy, commit ourselves to restoring free and fair electoral democracy. We solemnly resolve to push back against the attempt to hijack our democracy and fight to reclaim the secular and socialist spirit of our constitution. We the people of India say, let's all actually repeat this part. We the people say, no to SIR, no to compromised electoral integrity, no to the Partisan Election Commission of India, no to the stolen mandate of the government at the center. I will actually repeat this part because I think it's extremely important. The 4 no's that we are saying, we the people at this Chennai Conclave say no to the SIR, say no to the compromised electoral integrity, say no to the Partisan Election Commission which is fully established, and 4, no to the stolen mandate of the government at the center. So it is with this resolve, friends, that we go back. Of course, it is a different, not exactly a new beginning, maybe another phase of intense involvement. Many of our states have been involved in different ways. Each state, of course, has its specifics, but along with the state specifics, we fight, as Noor was rightly saying, we fight the BJP, but we also fight the government, which is in our state, for the kind of anti-people decisions or interventions that they are making. But it is really important in today's day and time to be able to challenge the political architecture of the BJP RSS that is trying to dismantle the democracy and the constitution, not brick by brick, but in an extremely fascist way. So whether it is through techno-fascism or whether it is through other kinds of fascism, it is something that we all ought to be not just alarmed about or have an analysis about, but to really plunge into action and into consistent action. It is with that resolve, let us all kind of take the spirit from this conclave and go forward. Zindabad.